You're saying that I should not highlight the injustices they bring.
No,
what are you saying?
You can do whatever you want. I just think that this is a show that
well,
a lot of people watch.
That.
A lot of people watch, and that's great.
Yeah.
But how do these specific issues affect most of your watchers? I'm not entirely sure.
What, racism? This is coming off the heels of him saying, like, look, I don't want to speak for black people, but I do want to say, if I was in your shoes, I would concentrate a little less on the whole, you know, racial thing. That's all I'm saying.
All right, he's back. In the bullpen today, we have Juan Velez-Mil, commentator, Young Voices. He's made appearances many places, Fox News, Telemundo, MSNBC, the list goes on and on. We do not hold those things against him here. Good to have you back, Juan. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. I got to ask you, man, we're going to chop it up about this erasing of racism, and not in the way that it sounds. The Republicans are trying to erase racism by acting as if it doesn't exist, never existed, gaslighting people. It's not the kind of erasing of racism that we actually know could hopefully erase some of the racist elements inside of this country. Why do you think there's this push, and everybody seems to be on the same page, to erase the reality that racism even existed in America? I don't want to presume what you know or believe about that particular topic. So if you would give us your proclamation, I would then opine.
I don't really know exactly what you're talking about. If you have a specific example and I could respond, because I do think that a lot of the times, like, we hyper fixate on race to a degree that's quite detrimental.
Right.
And you see this whole race hustling world taking over politics. And when you look at it, I was, watching the show before this, and you're talking about the rise of neo-Nazism, and you're talking about some of the cases with cops killing innocent black people. And those all matter, but at the end of it all, like, those are not the priorities of most Americans.
Well, speak for yourself. It's a priority of a particular group, and you don't have to subscribe to that group. So how dare you say that's not a priority to most Americans, because statistics betray you, sir. But I will give you a proclamation.
What statistics are you talking about?
I will give you statistics in just a moment so that you can stop gaslighting, dear brother. You asked me a question. I'll provide an answer for you and a proper education along with it. So the question you posed is, what am I talking about when I'm saying that there is this erase?
Okay, I've never seen Dr. Richey debate before. I don't watch the bullpen. I do love his segments, though. I usually watch a lot of probably one of the best, like, TYT hosts the hosting today. And this is phenomenal. I like how it's condescending mixed with, like, a little bit of, like, it almost feels like a teacher or a principal being like, well, I'm gonna have to give you a little bit of education as well as call out this blatant ridiculousness that I see before me. Duckco, thank you. I appreciate it.
Erasing of racism in America by those who are conservative by acting like it never happened. Nikki Haley said that this country has never been a racist nation. It was, in fact, Nikki Haley who said that the Civil War, when she denied that it was fought over racism or slavery, she said, I should have said the truth in a later interview. It was Governor DeSantis who said, well, this is destroying our children. It's called critical race theory, not even taught in K through 12 education. So when you talk about the reality of racism or slavery, look at the policies as well as the proclamations that have been made by major presidential candidates. And you can't dismiss the reality of slavery. Hold on, brother, I ain't finished. You can't dismiss the reality of a DeSantis.
Is his stream, like, frozen? Has he been caught in, like, smug face for the start of this? I don't feel he's changed that. He's like, he's been like that the whole time.
Appointing a school board in Florida who says, well, skills, trades were learned by the enslaved, highlighting something positive.
Dr. Richey,
let me tell you why. No, man, I'm not finished.
I just have to disagree with you there.
You can disagree, brother, but when I'm finished, when somebody says that about slavery, understand what slavery is. Slavery is human sex trafficking. Slavery is murder. When have you ever heard someone contextualize a human being trafficked, or a child being, or another human being being murdered as they learned something positive in the process. Never, except when it applied to the enslaved Africans in this country. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course I think slavery is bad, and I think Nikki Haley's comment.
Ooh, so brave. Nice. Just getting ahead of that one. Oh yeah, sorry if it wasn't clear before. I'm actually not for slavery. Slavery bad. Slavery bad. Yeah, for sure.
For not agree. I'm not a big Nikki Haley fan. In regard to CRT, I think most Americans don't like CRT, and it's
Do
not.
You know what it is?
Yeah, critical race theory.
What is it?
Well, you tell me what it is. Like critical race theory.
Look, I don't like it, okay? Most Americans also do not like it. And so that's enough for me. What don't they like? What? Yeah, what is it? Well, why don't you tell me what it is? Well, you invoked it. You brought it up. You also stated that Americans don't like it. I know. It's like it's a lot funner and easier when it's the buzzword, right? When it's just like, oh, CRT bad. Yeah, CRT bad. Apparently it teaches us that white babies are racist and that white children are the most racist and that time is racist. Yeah, it's very racist towards white people, that CRT. That's why I don't want to taught to elementary school children anymore. Good thing we stopped that.
But if you don't like it, you got to know what it is, brother. You said you don't like it. What is it?
Of course I know what it is. So critical race theory is that they use a critical lens in which you hyperfixate on race and you see how it
Critical race theory is where you use a critical lens. It's neat because it has the word in it, so that's how you remember that part. And you hyperfixate on race. That's what it is.
Affects different parts of society. And you use it to make decisions on how law yields disproportionate effects and blah, 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 blah. But on education,
but that's not.
All this.
That's not what critical race theory is. Critical race theory is a theoretical framework utilized in doctoral studies in order to analyze particular cause, effects, and outcomes. It is not something that is traditionally taught in any type of collegiate atmosphere until you get into doctoral studies. Sir, allow me to finish.
It's used. The thing you didn't even know what it was is used, apparently, in high school, elementary school. It's there, all right? There's an essence of it. It's a vibe, okay? The CRT vibe, and you can feel it. And all these programs are teaching, like, diversity, good and stuff. That's CRT right there, you know? It makes you hyperfixate on race.
You use a theoretical framework, critical race theory. Most people can't even define it, much less utilize it appropriately. And in the Florida laws, where we said, or they said, okay, anti-critical race theory is the bill. Guess what was not in the law? Critical race theory. They never banned critical race theory. They used that as a front, and critical race theory wasn't even confined in the context of the document, because what they were banning was one thing: teachers' ability to teach actual history.
That's not true.
It is true. You can look it up.
My brother's going to a Florida school right now. That's not.
Oh, we got anecdotes. We got anecdotes. Nice. Good. Yes. Counterpoint. I've got a personal story. This personal story is upsetting. So, yeah, just take a seat, all right? I got a lot of education to impart.
Brother learned critical race theory?
That you're making up. And
your brother, wait a minute. Your brother learned critical race theory?
He didn't learn critical race theory. Like, I understand some conservatives use that term as
Why do you do this? I don't understand. Is it just any kind of like press is good press? It's like, oh, well, it's a pretty big show. It's got like 5,000 live viewers. You know, I figured I'd get on there and show that there are still reasonable takes that conservatives can have.
Well, that's what I said to you. Yeah, you just proved my point.
What I mean is that critical race theory is used by education professionals to then push a certain agenda and the way things are taught.
Okay, so this part's actually kind of revealing, because it's kind of like, I know Christopher Rufo changed the very definition of critical race theory, made a lot of Americans scared of it, and actually, to be honest, you got to give it to him. He won the culture wars when it comes to that stuff. If he could get it to the point where actual PTA meetings had parents like getting arrested and getting like, you know, visibly upset and screaming over something that doesn't exist, well, then Christopher Rufo won, right? Like the fact that he got people, but you can see that it's not just like critical race theory, what it actually is, like the actual courses that were taught in critical race theory. It's the very idea of teaching people about, say, things like racial oppression, like that. Even bringing that up now, it's like, oh, that's CRT, And this is a catch-all now for conservatives to kind of back away from anything related to this kind of stuff. If you want to teach people that, hey, by the way, did you know that like black people, white people, they use drugs at about the same rates, but disproportionately black people will be have more police encounters, get arrested more often, have higher sentencing, all that kind of stuff, not be able to afford bail. Oh, that's CRT. Oh, you're CRT. No, that's bad.
Clean up your room.
That's bad. See what you're doing right now? That's racist. Yeah, to even bring this up, that's racist. What? Yeah, no. See what you're doing right now is you're basically, this is not CRT, what, like, you know, it's not a course on CRT or anything, but this is influenced by CRT, the things you're saying right now, and it's being done to be racist towards white people. So that's, yeah, and we got to call it out for what it is. I'm sorry, you might not know this, but you're an anti-white racist, and that's why you're saying the things that you're saying. And so, like, these are obviously useful tools for the right to be able to continue to push this kind of shit, right? As long as you keep saying, like, oh, well, yeah, hold on now, hold on. Ooh, this smells like CRT. Yeah, and I've learned that all CRT is bad because white babies.
Exactly.
And what
agenda?
No, tell me, what agenda?
That agenda is basically, if you go to a very liberal university or a very liberal school, is very guilt-centric, and you make students talk about race in ways that are meant to make them feel bad. It doesn't really it doesn't advance the interests of most Americans.
But I'm asking, what class
all
are you
that
talking
it's
about? What's
following
the
is
subject?
social cohesion in this country. Just hyperfixating on race makes no sense.
Do you have any answers at all? What class? What subject? What are you talking about?
It's a vibe.
Some schools have like specific like race dedicated classes.
Like what? What's the name of the class?
I don't remember. It's a particular class in my university. I didn't have that in Florida back then.
What university did you go to?
And again, this doesn't sound like a pervasive problem that we can broadly apply to like schools across the board, right? It's like, there's a course somewhere. I forget what it's called. Yeah, what's the name of the course? I don't know. Death to Whitey or something. I think that's what it was called. I can't remember the name, but it was really racist towards white people, and that's why, because it's CRT, and so like, yeah, it's not good. I certainly think it's probably something we should worry about, right? Be concerned at the very least.
American University.
Public or private?
It's private. That was private.
Do you pay for the classes?
Yeah.
Which means you get to choose what classes you take, correct?
No, I didn't choose that one. That one was forced on me, and most.
It was forced on you. What class?
Again, why are you doing this? I don't know. When this whole thing was set up, see, again, I don't watch a lot of the bullpen. I haven't seen a lot of these debate segments, but I assume this was going to be someone who's like, "Oh, I'm ready to debate this topic. Oh yeah, no, I've got a lot of statistics, facts, figures. I'm here." It's like, I see what you're saying. I couldn't pick this one course. Yeah, you know, they tried to CRT me, and that's why this is a serious problem. I just like, okay, can we just take a step back and ask, why is everyone so hyper fixated on race? You know, that's the real problem here. Come on.
What was the name of it?
It's about identity and structures. It's basically, yes, critical race theory, like very.
But what's the name of the class, dear brother?
It's called AUX2. Race, identity, and something else. I don't really remember.
And what was your major?
My major was international relations, but if you're an engineer, you have to take it.
In international relations, you taking a class about diversity, inclusion, or equitable principles.
How dare they? Those monsters. Those monsters. What did they teach you? Racism bad. No, how could they?
Is somehow antithetical to you understanding international relations.
No, I have a friend who's a computer science major, and he had to take it too. But anyhow, I digress.
He had to take a class.
What I will say,
AU
Dr.
class.
Richey,
Come on,
Dr.
man.
Richey, what I will
can't
say, and I
digress.
think
You
this
haven't
is important, is that every year over 1,000 people are killed by cops, and you know, many of them are innocent people.
Oof, here comes the knockout punch. I bet it's going to be a lot of them are white. Yeah. And yeah, I imagine, you know, Dr. Richey is going to have no response to that. You know, he's going to be like, oh yeah, oh wow, I didn't know that. It's the first I've heard. Or could be that, like, you know, that's also bad. I don't think anyone thinks that cops being Judge Dredd's doing extrajudicial punishment, you know, kind of just killing people rather than them seeing their day in court, regardless if they're white or black, is a good thing. even if they are going to, like the numbers, yes, in America, more white people are killed by police officers than black people. When you adjust by ratio of the population, you have a much higher percentage of being shot and killed by the police if you are black than if you are white. I think of a factor of over 2 times.
For sure. And that should be something we have to fix. But now in America,
both are bad.
The priorities of the American people are crime. If you live in a big city, more people are killed in New York and DC together than the entire country by cops. More people are afraid of a crazy homeless guy with a chainsaw than neo-Nazis or a cop. So this is just about priorities. And I think that
wow, it's much worse than what I was just trying to bring up. What I usually hear is a common like argument or talking point. This is just like, look, I got vibes, a lot of vibes for you, okay? The average person, way more scared of the homeless chainsaw people, okay? And like, yeah, with good reason. Do you want the homeless chainsaw wielding homeless people to attack you? I sure as hell don't. I'm way more scared of the homeless chainsaw folk than I am of police officers. You know, this may surprise you, Dr. Richey. I've never had a negative encounter with a police officer. Yeah, this one's gonna be hard to swallow.
Your priorities, at least on your show, are not on the right place, and that's a problem. And this is in part what I think.
This is a bit, right? Like this is a joke. Like this whole thing is just like, this is what is it, like a routine, as like this is what, like, you know, some kind of like elitist conservative thinks about these issues.
Our country does not need. We don't need more division. We need some social cohesion. That's some of Tim Scott, you know, very lovey-dovey, but he's doing some of that, and that's actually good.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, my priorities are adverse to America, correct?
Your hyperfixation, yes. Because it seems like you talk much more about neo-Nazis than about immigration or homelessness, at least from what I can tell this specific day.
I mean, how many acts of violent extremism in the United States per year are committed by the unhoused versus how many are caused by far-right extremists, neo-Nazis, you know, militias, that kind of shit? The statistics on that. Because I know it's really easy to vilify the scary homeless guy with the chainsaw, right? And yeah, who has both the chainsaw and the ability to use it. That's obviously a terrifying prospect. Or immigrants. But like, how often are immigrants committing acts of mass violence compared to naturalized born citizens? And how did those statistics look?
It's unfortunate, but see, this is your ignorance talking. And so because I understand you're coming from a place of ignorance, I'm going to be gracious. We do talk about immigration on this program. As a matter of fact, I have a doctorate of science in immigration law from Azteca University. I'm sure you're familiar with the university. I hold a doctorate from there in immigration law. So yes, I do talk about immigration. Number two, we talk about homelessness and the cause and effect relationship of the ecosystem that's involved. It's a policy dynamic, not a personal dynamic. We also talk about neo-Nazism because there are people who are oppressed in this nation. And if you don't have an intentional advocacy apparatus for those who are oppressed and have the least amount of power inside of a political or economic structure, they will not be heard. They have to have advocates. And unfortunately, most of our elected officials are either feckless cowards or they are purchased by the highest bidder. And so individuals like myself and a few others, we try to be intentional about making sure that they have a prioritization with us rather than those who have money. Does that make sense to you?
I mean, I guess like it's your show, and I just think that if I
like, whatever, bro. Yeah, sure. It's just like no one talks about like the chainsaw homeless guys, you know?
If I were in your shoes, I would talk a little bit more about those issues than about race and some official in some county saying the N-word. I think most Americans, even most of
what
Black
does it
Americans,
mean?
again,
What does it mean?
I can't talk for most Black Americans, but
yeah, but you're trying to. You talk.
I was like, that's not what you just. If I was in your shoes, I would talk a little less about race. I don't know, you know, getting mad about people saying the N-word and stuff. Yeah.
To a Black America right now, so you don't have.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you. If you we're watching the news. Well, it's showing shows, so of course you're gonna like it. But would you rather have someone talking about how to reduce poverty or about some person saying the N-word in some office somewhere?
Let me show you how it's connected.
Most of the time, I've noticed like we hyperfixate on this person said the N-word, this person said this person said that. It's a little too much.
Well, let me show you how it's connected. Policy does not get to escape your personal proclamation. If there's an elected official that says the N-word, we actually just discussed a cop who sent messages saying, I hate black people. He didn't say black people, he used the N-word. He was extremely racist in the way he contextualized not only black folk, but the attorneys of black people. Told one attorney, N-word, I'll shoot you too. And that got him fired. Now, why is that important? Because right now the DA says that 54 cases are now compromised because those cases relied on the testimony of a known racist cop among them who could have been biased in their expression of the case during presentation. That's number one. Number two, when you have an elected official who is in charge of policy and their bias is before them, but they are acting as if they are actually fair people, fair arbitrators of justice, but they are racist against a particular demographic. If they were racist against your culture, you would not want them judging policy for you and your family. You would want them to be exposed so they would not have position of power over you, correct? Does that make sense to you, brother?
I mean, of course it makes sense. Like,
Thank you, I appreciate it. All right.
It seems that we're fighting against, at least you, against a ghost. Because most Republicans are like.
He was just using a real world example to try and ground this for him. So here is an example of someone who has authority and state executive power, not to mention weaponry, who clearly has racial bias towards black people. So much so that he uses the N-word freely. And now all the other cases that he had are going to be called into question because it's like, yeah, this guy was a massive ass racist. There could be legitimate cases that he worked on. What if he stopped a whole bunch of rapists, for example? Now that's called into question because the lawyer's like, oh, we can reopen this. This guy was a huge racist. The whole thing could be thrown out, blah, blah, blah. Well, but our client is white. Yeah, we'll just say he was, I don't know. We'll work on it, but we got an in now. Like that this is pretty fucked up, right?
Oh yeah, it's super cool when a cop kills an innocent black person, or we love racism. Like that's
so
just
you're saying that
it's not happening in this country.
I got
like,
you. So
I'd say the only thing about this segment that I'm surprised of is why even do this in the first place with someone like this, because it kind of feels like low-hanging fruit, you know, in terms of like every single thing he's brought up. He's like, oh, well, CRT is bad, and it's because they teach it in schools. Like, what schools did they teach it in? Well, they taught it in like my school, and it's really bad. What is CRT? CRT, almost got me there. Why don't you tell me what CRT is? Well, no, you invoked it. Can you define it for me? Hyperfixation on racism, you know, teaching people the racism is like, I see what you're doing. You're trying to make me look silly. Look, all I'm saying is that maybe you should stop talking about neo-Nazis so much, you know? I'm just saying, come on.
I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying that because the vast majority of cops are not saying the N-word in text messages, or the vast majority of elected officials are not being caught being racist outside of their job, you're saying that I should not highlight the injustices they bring.
No.
What are you saying?
You can do whatever you want. I just think that this is a show that
I definitely appreciate that.
A lot of people watch, and that's great.
Yeah.
But how do these specific issues affect most of your watchers? I'm not entirely sure. But not only
what, racism? This is coming off the heels of him saying, like, look, I don't want to speak for black people, but I want to say, if I was in your shoes, I would concentrate a little less on the whole, you know, racial thing. That's all I'm saying.
This show, but when I look at a lot of other shows, it seems like they'll rather talk about these issues than about all the other things that affect us. Case
the
in
homeless
point,
chainsaw,
the southern border, for example. Like,
and
how many times have you talked about that today or this week or last week? Sorry.
You don't watch.
Wait. Did you just like enhance your smug? Did you just turn the smugness up? You can't do that mid-sentence and you haven't made a point.
Not today or this week or last week, sorry.
I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think I've ever seen someone fucking fall flat on their face and then be like, yeah, or, you know, whatever.
You don't watch my show, do you?
I do. I watch it occasionally.
Oh, okay. So if you watch,
this is enough. We get the point. No, this is amazing. I can't look away. I'm sorry.
It's my program, dear brother. You will know that I talked about the southern border last week, and the week before that, by the way. The standoff that happened.
Compare with racism. Like it's
so you need me. Now, let me just get this right. You would like me to speak more about other things to suit you. Rather than, well, tell me what you want me to do, brother. What do you ask me to do for you? Let me see if I could accommodate. What you need me to do now?
However you want to do your show.
Well, and I promise you, I damn sure will.
Okay. I'll tell you exactly what to do. If I were in your shoes, I will of course talk about, you know, all these instances. When appropriate, sometimes some of them I don't think are that newsworthy.
So you'll basically do what I'm doing.
Not entirely. I think,
but kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
All right, I appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Again, unless this is a bit, I don't understand why this kid did this. It seems like deeply embarrassing on every level. From like a technical standpoint, you had absolutely no points to bring to the table. You look incredibly foolish. Not to mention the smugness is off the charts. My God, I've never seen smug particles like this. It's breaking the machine.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Can you please hit the like and subscribe button and maybe leave a comment? It really does help the videos out. But first, the people who produce everything you see before you and make this entire channel possible: Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Salim, Multi Mondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Puppy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Cernicus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Demel, Trevbot.exe, Words Greenwood, and Travis McClinton. And also thank you to every other person who helps fund this show. Their names are on the screen right now. It would not be possible without every single one of them. We cannot thank you enough. And if you want to join the Patreon, please come to patreon.com/theserfs and help us exist.